you lonesome tonight? Are you looking for a game to play? Welcome to the Guys, Games, and Beer After Dark.
Yes, it's Larry here with Guys, Games, and Beer, and we are in the sheets today, and I'm with
Ryan from Guys, Games, and Beer.
Mel from Guys, Games, and Beer.
we're with
Heather from Pick Up and Go Games.
Scott, Pick Up and Go Games.
Now, if you're familiar with Guys, Games, and Beer, and I assume you are, you have seen Pick Up and Go before. But what is new in the Pick Up and Go world?
Oh, wait a minute. The disembodied voices have got to chime in. You've never seen Pick Up and Go games like this before. All right, let's continue. Thank you. Disembodied voice.
So what's new in the Pick Up and Go games world?
Well, this year we're finally actually able to debut our box set. It's our campaign box set because we're no longer going to take all the campaign setting stuff that we had printed before. We got 3 books printed, and we actually originally wanted to do this like 2 years ago almost. And I only had a chance to finally put the boxes together a couple of days ago because there was a pandemic and nobody wants to hear about the rest of that. But there was no cons to go to, so we had product and we couldn't sell it.
No!
But this is how we're doing it now. We got all of our campaign stuff in our box set with our 5th edition right here, and a couple of extra modules that we brought along with to show off. So that's what we're doing nowadays.
Okay, so
Good. It looks great.
Yeah,
It looks
we're trying.
So if people have not bought something before, this is your sort of all-in-one package.
A little bit. This is the Shalarian campaign box set really describes everything that's about the world itself. And we're all familiar with like Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit and such like that. That's their whole world. Well, this was my world that I published, that I wrote. And it's all the countries, all the important people, the nations, the governments, the gods, everything for a fantasy role-playing game, all right there, all in a box set.
So what's the tax structure in this world?
Well, sometimes if you live in Daman, they get taxed the fuck out of it. Nah.
It's a world, I
Yeah,
assume there's a tax structure.
Well, God bless the state of Illinois. They say I don't have to pay taxes.
So in the box set, we have the 3 books. We have our main Shalaria campaign setting. We have the Moon of Azra campaign setting, and we also have the Plains campaign setting. There's also 2 maps and all the character sheets and familiar sheets that you need.
And conceivably, if you actually get the rest of our products, every single thing that I've written, all 9, 10 books that I've written, actually all fit in that box set.
That is nice.
So this,
So there's space to fill.
There's always space to fill, baby.
and there's plenty in our big
Okay, so I'm going to chime in a little bit as a not a disembodied voice. So we've been drinking all day, doing interviews all day. These guys are really nice and are giving us one more interview to finish today out, and we're not even done with this con. Where are we actually, Larry?
We are in our...
We got kicked out of GameHole.
They told us to leave, never to return.
Oh no, they love
No, we're
We are
at GameHole Con, but not actually GameHole Con, just our Airbnb.
Pajama party.
Yeah,
our pajama party.
We are all
So,
style our jammies.
So, we and I
I'm
think
wearing my kilt because it's close.
this will be a topic another time. This will be another topic for another time. But this is one of those moments of how do you get through a 4-day con? You cannot go from 7 to 1 every day. Some days you got to just back off a little. So we've come back to the Airbnb a little earlier, and we're all just sort of relaxing tonight.
But we also wanted to send a shout out to the entire crew and management of GameHole Con.
Here's
Cheers to you guys.
Cheers to you
Here's to you
guys.
guys. You run a hell of a con. Thank you so much,
Thank
guys.
you. If you have not been to GameHole Con before, we highly recommend going. It is one of the best run cons in this area. The guys who run it are absolutely fantastic. Thank you guys. Really appreciate
It's
it.
getting bigger, but still has the small world, small neighborhood feel to it.
Yes, yes, it does.
We
Like,
mentioned
if-
it a million times.
If you really need to get a hold of one of the leaders of the convention, you know, Alex or Josh or any of those guys,
They're right there.
They're right
They're
there.
right there.
They're approachable, and like you said earlier, they're not running around like chickens with their heads cut off. They've got stuff under control because these guys have been doing this shit for years.
Well, and you know, the thing we pointed out about this, and you are a vendor there, but you will notice that it's the smallest part of the convention.
Oh, it
It's the
really
vendor
is. I
hall.
mean, the,
And so the focus is playing games, you know?
yeah.
Yes.
I'd easily say the vendor hall is probably about maybe 200 by 150 or so.
Not bigger than that.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, it's a large area, it's a large convention now.
There's-
Right, it's a large
But-
convention,
but-
it's a large area.
But if you look at what, like the overall space and what people are doing in it.
Right.
Most people are playing games
Oh yeah,
in this space.
there's
That's what
rooms
they're doing.
upstairs, downstairs, left, right. There's over 70
Yeah.
vendors by themselves.
Right.
And the vendors are a really good mix. I mean,
They
we are one of a number of games, but you can find just about anything that you may be interested in. So it's a very well thought out, well planned vendor space.
Okay, I gotta stop, because I derailed the crap out of that. They're gonna go back to talking about that product. I'm apologizing, I derailed the crap. All I did was say
No,
what we
I mean, it's
No.
fine, it was so, you know, so it's, one, I would think, to be in such a small vendor hall would be an honor.
Yeah.
And,
It is.
and, you know,
Yeah.
and the fact that there's a
Casual.
fairly good chance that what the vendor hall is used for, and I think it probably happens for their product, is people buy it and then go play it.
They do.
Yes.
Holy crap, they do.
Yeah, and even as vendors, when we go, I mean, part of the fun of not just meeting everybody and being a part of this is that we get a chance to also be attendees to some extent. We go out, we go find the games, and we get to sit down after the vendor hall closes. We're gamers. We just sit down, we find friends,
Oh,
we find
yeah.
people we've never met.
Yeah, you were mentioning how there's this really great game that Scott loves.
So the game that Larry's referring to is one that we actually, technically we discovered it at Midwest Gaming Classic a few years ago, rediscovered last night in the Games Library, which I highly recommend. Check out the Games Library at GameCon. It is, you can try out all different kinds of games. It's a game called God's Forge. It's a very simple setup. It's 2 to 4 players. If you don't mind the fast pace of it and the horrendous destruction that comes with each round, you'll be okay.
Here, let me cut her off for a second.
I love the
Don't
game.
worry, I was never thinking that would happen.
No, see, the trick is that we bought the game. I'm sorry, dear. You bought the game.
I love the game.
I'm not-
God's Forge is a
I'm
great
not
game.
saying I don't like it. I'm saying that originally it was one of those games that I played, I got my ass handed to me, and then I looked at this and said, this is pissing me the fuck off.
But you still liked it enough for us to buy
And
it.
then, here we are 3 years later, and it's all of a sudden, we're like, oh, we're looking for a game that's like 2 players, fast up. Oh, here, try this. And I was like, this is familiar. And I was like, well, I've played a lot of games, so maybe this is just something else here. And she throws out like this circular board. She's like, oh, you got these tokens you move around like this, and then you cast these cards, and you're trying to destroy the other players. And I was like, well, let me guess, this is a resource, and there's really not too many ways to heal. She goes, oh, yeah. And I was like, I fucking hate this game.
But
And then as it turns out, I ended up winning the first game, and then she won the next game.
Yes.
And it's okay.
Oh, sounds well balanced.
The game's, it's good. It's good. You just gotta get used to it.
I
I do like it, you just gotta get used to it.
God's Forge is again 2 to 4 players. It's very simple setup. It's meant for fast play. It's a lot of fun. But because everything happens at once, sometimes it's a love-hate relationship, as this one proves.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of fun, and I believe Atlas Games is the
Yeah,
the
the
people
publisher for
the
it.
publisher for it. So thank you, Atlas Games.
Yeah, thank you, Atlas.
He hates it,
No,
loves
no, no,
it,
no, no.
he'll play it again.
It's weird. Anyway, beyond that,
It sounds fun.
the one thing that we
Yes.
actually were able to debut at the con
Yes.
was our newest expansion that we weren't able to do last year.
Yes.
Because no conventions. So
Right.
for our card game, on top of our RPGs, we also ran a card game as well called the Champions of Shalaria.
Yes.
It's a fast-paced card game, does about 15 minutes.
2 to 4 players.
It's a non-collectible modular card game, so
Yeah.
everything you need is basically just right there. You share a deck.
Take the idea of adventuring and put it into a very fast-paced card game.
Well, what we did was we made this expansion called Nobles and Nations, and instead of an expansion that adds cards to the deck, we got an expansion that you do stuff before the game starts, and then you take on one of the roles of the nations that are in the campaign setting, and then you take on the role of one of the leaders, and you get an advisor to help you, like a chancellor or a vizier, and they help you throughout your conquest of these quests and adventures.
Okay.
So when you build a whole world, when you conceptualize a whole world, what do you think the biggest challenge is?
My biggest challenge in conceptualizing and writing the whole world, because it took me 2 years to write the campaign setting, a little over 2 years, start to finish, with me and Tim Siefkin. And my biggest problem was like, oh, I want to do this kind of a nation, and I want to do, and it's going to have this, and this, and all of a sudden I was like, shit, I have to realize that I need to incorporate the entire history of the entire region. It's like, oh look, like this region now has names of cities that don't necessarily conform with the rest of the country because that region was conquered 400 years earlier in the history that I was writing. So
Right.
you have to take the whole history into consideration. And I covered over 6,000 years worth of time in a timeline and had to, and still did it in 48 pages.
Yeah. And a lot of the world of Shalaria actually stemmed from the story development that we had in our live action game. We ran that for 10 years.
Which unfortunately is now defunct.
Yep,
But-
but lots of fond memories.
I
But
think I saw it on Defunctland.
it's got the joy, it's got the fun.
Deadballs.com.
But Shalaria, really, the world itself, the storyline, a lot of the history, a lot of the tales that come from it really stemmed from the players and the development that came from the live action and then translated. But it's a matter of everything that you do after a certain point, you have to learn to integrate into what's already there and make it work seamlessly. And so every time you expand on something, you really need to take that into consideration. And we want to provide the best and easiest access to the world for any future GM or players of the Crypts and Creatures line. So to do that, we feel a responsibility to providing as much information for them to use as possible. Whether they use it or not, it's up to them, but that's the great thing about the game.
Needless to say, it was a pain to write. I enjoyed it.
Well,
It was a
but
pain
so,
to write.
But it's
Was
worth the
it-
pain.
It's worth the pain.
Is there a thing in the world and the mechanics of the game and some element of it
Oh, I'm hoping that's the right
where so as my day job is coding and there are these times where I have to go back and look at my code that's like 2, 3, 4 years old, and I go, oh shit, that was so fucking clever. And so is there anything that you're particularly like, shit, I was on my game that day?
My co-writer, James Jeffrey, and I we were doing a pug writing meeting, and it was an odd day off for him and an odd day off for me, so we decided to get together. And we're outside my house smoking, and we're just scrolling through Facebook, And he comes over to ask me a mechanical question about, like, hey, how are we gonna incorporate this, and this to this race? And I was like, oh, okay, we'll just do it like this. And I just kept scrolling, and then he looked at my phone and goes, who the fuck is that? And I went, that's Heather's cousin. And he goes, oh, wow.
Okay, now we are getting to G2B after that.
Well, we don't know what the oh wow is.
Well,
It could be a circus act, could be gorgeous, who knows? We don't know yet.
My Heather's cousins, Aaliyah and Athena, they are very nice ladies. They are wonderful, and they're gorgeous. They really are. Sorry, ladies,
okay.
you are.
All right.
You're fucking phenomenal. One of them is a full-time model, and the other one's part-time, and they've done thousands of photo shoots. They're pro and semi-pro models, and it was a picture of Athena doing one of her shots from a photographer named Chris Gum. And James looks over and he goes, that is what I imagined for Abilene. And I went, oh my God, that's perfect.
And Abilene is?
Abilene is basically our female Satan. She is the Lord, the mistress of evil, the queen of carnage. She's our Satan. And she just rules hell. And the particular outfit that Athena was wearing was very complimentary towards such things.
Towards hell.
Yes, and the picture I would say is very PG, but nowadays is very PG. And he goes, that's what I want. And I went, well, yeah, but where are we gonna? He goes, think about it. What we'll do is in the planar book, we'll just put each one of the heads of the gods of that plane as a picture throughout the plane book. And I was like, oh, that's great. We can separate and stagger them, and then we'll add an extra 4 pages to it. And he's like, yeah, that'll be great. And he goes, how much is this going to cost us? And I was like, oh my God, I never even thought of that. I said, I'm sure she doesn't own the rights to this picture. He goes, you're going to have to find that photographer. And I was like, okay, I'm going to find. And contacted the photographer, and Craig was very nice. And he actually thought I wanted exclusivity for the picture. And he was like, well, you gotta pay this much for it. And I was like, no. I do not need exclusivity.
No, I just want to borrow it.
No, I just need rights to use. And he's like, oh, just rights to use? You don't care? I was like, no, just rights to use. He's like, oh, okay, it'll just be this much. And I was like, sold, thank you. It's the most amount of money that I'd ever paid for a picture. And then I ended up mailing a copy of the book to Athena.
So for any
Wait, it
of
makes me think I
you,
want to be a photographer. Oh.
so for any of you out there thinking, you can start your own game company from the basement, from the garage, from your room, whatever, but these are the things you have to worry about.
That
keep it in mind.
was a light bulb moment right there when.
Yeah.
And the rest of the major gods we'd actually figured out through some publisher art that we found on Drive Through RPG, and then those were pretty good. We found like a Thor-like picture for Thalic. He's our god of strength, and we found a very angelic picture for like a warrior angelic picture for Aladar. He's our god of light, and then when it came to Abilene, it was like, bow, there's Abilene. And to this day, Athena is the only photograph that we've ever used in any of our books. All the rest of them have been art. I mean, the photographs are art, but it's been drawn art for all. She's our only photograph.
Yeah. When you can match the story with the mechanics, with the pictures.
With a perfect picture.
And bring them together, it is a beautiful moment because it takes so much work to take all of those parts, all those moving cogs, and put them together to make one working machine.
Sublime.
There was also another interesting moment when I was writing the planar handbook, which is the second supplement that's in there, and I wanted to write a story. I wanted to write like a 4 or 5 page short story for the opening of the book. And I was kind of struggling with it. I'd been thinking about it for a couple of days, and I was taking some notes while I was at work. And some of the notes just didn't work out. And I had to do a long inventory that night. So I stayed out past, and I did my long inventory. I get home at 3 o'clock in the morning. Heather is still up. She was taking her college classes, and I noticed the light out in the den, and I opened the door. I'm like, oh, you're still doing off. And she goes, oh my God, I have to worry about these damn infernal statistics. And I went, what? And she goes, inferential statistics.
Inferential
And I went, oh, okay, yeah, no, I remember that. Yeah, that's a pain in the
And
ass.
somewhere so you're going, you
And,
didn't help
and then all of a sudden I went, infernal statistics.
Statistics are infernal.
Interesting.
yeah.
So based off of her misstatement, I wrote a whole story based on infernal statistics.
Inspiration comes in
Inspiration
many
comes from the
forms.
strangest places, and I find it to be a great story, and I even expanded upon the story years later in
Yeah.
one of the other books.
One of our favorites.
So,
Yeah.
Cool.
yeah, about a girl that's in basically like the high school, the hell equivalent of high school. And
But to read more, you'll have
To read
to
more,
get-
yeah.
that's-
There you go, yeah, don't give it away.
no, wait.
And that's called.
If you want to know more, read the book.
Right. And you can find those books at.
pickupandgogames.com, pickupandgo.games.
And where are you this weekend?
We are in booth, we are in the best booth. We have a double booth, so we are actually in booth 2021.
Ah!
But
So we are running, we have a limited number run of the box sets. So if you want one, come grab one, especially Saturday.
21 of them specifically, I have 21 box sets
The
available.
box sets right now are running 50, but you are getting, again, 3 books, 2 maps, and a whole bunch of character sheets and other items in here. The core book, add that, this is the entire system. If you don't know anything about it, this is our entire system
I'll tell you what,
Every 20 system.
anybody that mentions this podcast, I'll throw that book in for free.
for free. This is normally just $5. It's 32 pages. It is everything you need to play and run a D20 game. But if you mention the G2B podcast,
I'll throw it in for free.
we'll throw it in for free. It's a part of it. We have a few other books in there, including some modules. We have some addendums. So we have our Players Codex 1 and 2, which will add on to this. But this is beautiful.
And Dylan should be in it.
And hopefully one of the writers of one of our modules, the Smoke on the Front module, will be in tomorrow's review.
All right, Ryan, you get to take us out of this mess.
Oh, well, this is Ryan from Guys Games Beer. With Scott from Pick Up and Go Games.
And
we're at GameHole Con 2021. GameHole Con
And thank you for joining us.
meeting.
at G2B After Dark.